This story takes us back to 1914 when an 8-year-old boy was playing in a village in Japan. Out of nowhere, he spotted a machine moving on wheels. This was a Ford Model T. The sight of the machine left the boy mesmerized. That day marked the beginning of this young boy's fascination with cars and mechanical components. His name was Soichiro Honda, and little did anyone know at the time that his name would one day be associated with nearly every vehicle in the world. Welcome back to my video. Soichiro Honda was born in 1906 in a tiny village near Mount Fuji in Japan. His father worked as a blacksmith and also spent some of his time repairing bicycles. Sadly, Honda's parents had already lost 5 of their children to various serious illnesses, so their hopes rested heavily on him. However, Honda wasn't interested in academics. Instead, he was drawn to helping his father with bicycle repairs. At 16, he came across a job advertisement in a newspaper. A Tokyo-based automobile service station, Art Shokai, was looking to hire a technician. Honda sent them a letter applying for the job, and luckily he received a positive response. This was the start of his journey, leaving behind his home and school to head to Tokyo in pursuit of a career. When Honda reached Tokyo, his dreams were quickly dashed. Instead of working on cars, the owner of Art Shokai had him doing cleaning tasks and even had him babysitting at one point. Honda found himself in a tough spot. He had left his parents and home, only to be assigned trivial jobs. He couldn't bring himself to return to his village as he felt too embarrassed to face his parents. For months, he was forced to carry on with these odd jobs. Eventually, after several months, the owner of Art Shokai finally began to involve Honda in workshop tasks. Honda was deeply passionate about this type of work, quickly grasping how things functioned. In just a few months, he gained significant knowledge about different cars and their parts. During this period, Art Shokai built 2 racing cars, one called Art Daimler and the other Curtis. Both cars, built using repurposed engines, secured first place in the 1924 Japanese Motor Car Championship. Honda was already a skilled mechanic, but in this race, he sat beside the driver as the engineer. This event cemented his devotion to motor vehicles. For several more years, Honda continued working at Art Shokai, gaining valuable experience. In 1928, at the age of 22, the owner decided to open another branch in Hamamatsu City and gave Honda the responsibility of running it. Honda started this new branch with just 1 worker, but within 2 years he expanded it to a 30-worker operation. He had now become both a master mechanic and a proficient racing driver. Utilizing his skills, Honda designed a racing car for his employer that could achieve speeds of up to 120 kilometers per hour, setting a new record in Japan that would stand for the next 20 years. Although Honda had become highly valuable to the owner of Art Shokai, he harbored a desire to open his own workshop. But fate intervened. In 1936, during a race, Honda was involved in a serious accident. Although he survived, his left arm was fractured, his shoulder dislocated, and his face badly injured. For a time, it seemed to Honda that his life had come to an end. He could no longer work as a mechanic or compete in races. After several months of recovery, he approached his employer with a proposal. Honda explained that he could no longer perform repair work and suggested starting a separate company to manufacture spare parts. Unfortunately, his employer rejected the idea, not wanting to take any risks as their existing business was already profitable. Undeterred, Honda resolved to start the parts manufacturing business on his own. In 1936, at the age of 30, he and a friend established Tokai Siki Heavy Industry, making his friend Shichiro Kato the company president. Though the business was launched, Honda lacked the investment needed to keep it running. During the day, he worked for Art Shokai, and at night, he tried to create engine pistons for his new company. For months, he struggled without success and grew physically weaker due to the continuous effort. Failure after failure seemed to block his path. Determined to improve his knowledge, Honda enrolled in a university to study metallurgy. After 3 years of dedicated work in 1939, he finally succeeded in producing an engine piston. He then left his job to focus entirely on piston manufacturing. However, he was unaware that the pistons still had defects. When he presented them to Toyota, they rejected 47 out of 50 designs. The news hit Honda hard as he had no alternative plan. He began traveling across Japan, visiting different factories and learning from various manufacturers to better understand the industry. After years of effort, Honda finally produced pistons that met quality control standards and orders began to flow in. However, Honda's joy was short-lived. In 1941, as Japan entered World War II, the government took control of many companies, including Honda's. Then in 1944, an air raid destroyed Honda's factory. In 1945, Japan was devastated by 2 nuclear attacks which brought the nation to its knees. The war was over, but Honda had lost everything. Honda sold the remains of his company to Toyota for 450,000 yen and found himself without a job. Japan was in a dire crisis, grappling with severe food shortages, rampant inflation, and a collapsed economy. Fuel shortages made transportation scarce. During this time, Honda came across a small engine used by the Japanese Imperial Army to power wireless radios. Inspired, he attached the engine to a bicycle, solving his transportation problem. People loved the concept. Realizing the potential, Honda designed a new engine, marking the first time his logo appeared on a machine. Lacking the funds for mass production, he sent an open letter to 18,000 bicycle shop owners, and 3,000 of them responded with advance payments. Over the next few years, Honda developed the Super Cub motorcycle, which became an immediate success, even surpassing American giants like Triumph and Harley-Davidson by 1958. In the 1960s, Honda became the world's largest motorcycle manufacturer, and by 1968, they had sold over 10 million units. Yet Honda wasn't satisfied. He ventured into car manufacturing and, after initial failures, finally launched the Honda Civic in 1972, a model that remains popular today. Soichiro Honda retired in 1973 and passed away in August 1991, but his legacy continues through the company that produces cars, motorcycles, and even aircraft engines.